Yeah, we'll show you. That was when they jumped at me and we started fighting. They kept hitting me until finally I blacked out. When I woke up, they were gone. I then called the police and for an ambulance. When they arrived, I filed a report saying that Susie's brothers had wrecked my home, and then I was taken to the hospital. The doctor told me that I had a broken rib, a broken wrist, and a concussion. It would be months of healing before I would be back to normal. Hi there, my name is Brad, and I have quite the story to tell you. This is back when I was single and dating way before I met my wife. I had met this girl Susie at a coffee shop. She was sitting alone and reading a book and looked adorable. I went up and asked her for her number, and within a couple of weeks, we went out on a date to a fancy restaurant. Looking back on how our conversation went, I should have seen it as a massive red flag. I hope this place is good. I've never been here before, but I've heard some really good things.
Oh, it's good. This place is fancy enough. I'm glad you didn't cheap out. So many guys spend too little on dates.
Is that really important?
Oh, yeah. It really goes to show if a guy is too poor or not.
Like I said, it should have been a sign that things weren't starting off on a good foot. At the time, though, I hadn't had a lot of experience dating, and I really didn't know much about setting boundaries or knowing what kind of toxic behavior to avoid. Except the crazy thing is that Susie was the most normal person in her whole family, but I'm getting ahead of myself. That first date led to another, and not long afterwards we started dating exclusively. Susie and I went everywhere together. Sports games, dancing, dinner, you name it, we did it. Of course, I paid for every one of our dates, as Susie felt that it was my duty as the boyfriend, and I won't lie. I didn't mind paying, but we were doing a lot of things that cost a good amount of money, and I was having a hard time saving up money as a result. My job paid me well, but Susie had very expensive tastes, and I was beginning to grow weary of being the only one to pay for things. Since we were dating, I really didn't see any reason why Susie couldn't pick up a tab once in a while. At any rate, things were going well, and so I asked Susie if it was time for us to introduce each other to our families. She thought that it was a great idea, and I brought her to meet my parents and my sisters, and things went pretty well. My sisters did make faces when Susie would speak, but I thought that it was just them being jealous. So with my family out of the way, it was now my turn to be introduced to Susie's family. She set up a meeting with her parents, and I felt incredibly nervous. It was scary, but since she had already met my family, I figured that I could dig down deep and be courageous enough to meet her family too. We agreed to meet Susie's parents at my apartment. I made sure that my place was spotless and ready for them to come over. So here is where the real crazy stuff begins, though.
Mom and Dad, this is Brad.
This is Brad, huh? And this is his home? Yes, it's nice to meet you guys. I've lived here for a few years. It's perfect as it's close to work and super affordable. Affordable? I guess that is an okay reason to live here, although it looks kind of like a dump. I had a much nicer place when I was your age. So is there a reason you live in such a pathetic place? Excuse me? I'm sorry that you don't approve of my house. They didn't let up. They spoke poorly of the food that I served, of the furniture I own, and literally everything about my life. It was obvious that they really did approve of me, or at least that was what I thought, until the very end of the night, when Susie and her parents broke out in laughter. I was so hurt and confused that I didn't know what to make of it, until I realized her dad, her broken, very expensive portrait I had on my wall. What is going on? Why are you laughing? Why did you broke my expensive portrait?
Yeah, my parents were just playing a joke on you. It's just the way our family is. You better get used to it.
Okay. That doesn't feel like a joke to me. That is expensive for crying out loud. Oh, lighten up. Susie's father punched me playfully in the arm, a bit too hard actually. I actually had a bruise from it afterwards, and I really didn't appreciate their twisted idea of a joke, but what choice did I have? After that, things were pretty good for a bit. Susie and I were quickly falling in love with each other, and were beginning to talk about possibly moving in with each other. And that was when I met her brothers. I had just gotten home from work, and I found the door to my apartment busted open, and my apartment was in shambles. Someone had ransacked the place and broken dishes, my television, and had rubbed dirt, and what I had to assume was ketchup and mustard all over my bed and couch. I didn't know what to do, but I was about to call up the police, and when Susie and two men roughly her age walked into my apartment. Oh my God, Susie, look at this! Can you believe that some deranged person would break into my home and trash it like this? Who does something like that? Wow, that's terrible. Yeah, it's so unfair. The two of them started chuckling, which seemed a bit off. After all, someone had caused close to $1,750 worth of damage, and that was when I got incredibly frustrated with them. After all, who chuckles at someone else's misfortune like that? And then, it suddenly dawned on me. Oh, for crying out loud, did you two do this? Us? No, we would never do that. Yeah, what would make you think we would play a prank on you like that? That would be way too mean. They started chuckling more and more, and they refused to say why, at least until they burst out laughing full on. I knew it. You idiots are going to pay for what you did to my place. Do you have any idea how much money you wasted by destroying my belongings? Idiots, you got some mouth on you. Yeah, we'll show you. That was when they jumped at me and we started fighting. They kept hitting me until finally I blacked out. When I woke up, they were gone. I then called the police and for an ambulance. When they arrived, I filed a report saying that Susie's brothers had wrecked my home, and then I was taken to the hospital. The doctor told me that I had a broken rib, a broken wrist, and a concussion. It would be months of healing before I would be back to normal. Meanwhile, I was seriously considering breaking up with Susie. I had already filed charges against her brothers, and I was really annoyed that so far her family had proven themselves to be a complete nightmare. Suddenly my phone began to ring, and I saw that it was Susie calling. I briefly considered just letting it go to voicemail and dodging her call, but then changed my mind and picked up.
Damn it, Brad. Why did you call the police? They just arrested my brothers.
Good. After what they did to my home and then to me, they deserve to be put behind bars.
It was just a stupid prank. Why do you have to be such a baby? Can't you take a joke?
What they did wasn't a joke. They crossed so many lines. Susie, for crying out loud. They destroyed my home. That isn't a joke. That's a serious crime. What is wrong with you? I'm not gonna lie. Your family is insane.
Oh, give me a break. My family is just eccentric. This is nothing compared to the pranks they pulled on my last boyfriend. Now, if you love me, you'll drop the charges against my brothers.
Well, I guess I don't love you then, because those assholes can rot in prison for all I care. It was then that I hung up on her and blocked her number. I then went to a lawyer and had them file a lawsuit against Susie's brothers. I wanted them to pay for the damage that they had caused. Thankfully, my medical insurance would take care of my medical bills, but I wasn't going to let them off the hook for what they did to my apartment. It didn't take much for a judge to side with me. Since it was plainly obvious that Susie's brothers had trashed my home, the judge ordered them to pay to fix or replace everything. I had an appraiser come out, and they determined that it would cost close to $20,000 to undo the damage that they had done. However, the judge ordered them to pay me $35,000 and stated that the extra $15,000 was to cover the pain they inflicted on me and to make sure that they had learned a lesson and wouldn't do something so idiotic again. On top of that, both of them were sentenced to 5 years in prison, both for breaking and entering, destruction of private property, and for assaulting me as well. Susie even made a scene at the trial almost every day and would scream obscenities at me and try to throw things, and so the judge threw her in jail for a couple of months for being in contempt of court. After that, I got a restraining order against her, and since then, I haven't seen her once. Her parents even tried to contact me. I'm not sure if they wanted to apologize or if they wanted revenge or just to get me to somehow put a good word in for their sons to help reduce their prison sentences somehow. But I wasn't having any of it. I told them that all of their children had gone to prison for harassing me, and if they weren't careful, they too would be in trouble. A few days later, while I was sleeping, I heard my window shatter in the middle of the night. I quickly jumped up, grabbed a baseball bat, and sneaked downstairs, only to find two thieves trying to set things on fire in my living room. As quietly as I could, I sneaked behind them and knocked them out, then called the cops. When the police arrived and we removed their masks, I realized they were my ex's parents. The police took them away, and they were later sentenced to 2 years behind bars. Dating Susie taught me a lot of valuable life lessons, and I developed some much better dating skills that would keep me out of trouble when it came to dating the wrong women. The good news is that I did eventually date the perfect woman for me, and we've been married for 3 years now. So at the very least, I do have a happy ending. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.